Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be the third video in my top 10 favorite Shakespeare characters to help celebrate ShakeTube 2020. Thank you to its hosts, Old Blues Chapter and Verse, Steve Donahue, Totally Pretentious, and Rainy Day Reads. I really appreciate you guys putting this event on for all of us. And our number 4 character is, of course, Juliet from Romeo and Juliet. The main reason why I love her can be boiled down largely to the phrase quiet strength. Juliet can behave in a very extreme way, but it always comes from this kind of contained passion that you can see smoldering at her core. There's a sense, even from her first scene, that she is more than what she initially looks like. She seems initially to be just a very sweet, well-behaved girl. I think mostly of the Olivia Hussey version from the 1960s. She was a fabulous Juliet. But it's played with this kind of undercurrent of there being more there. Like when her mother basically says, "You're going to meet Paris tonight, and you are probably going to marry him, so you might want to fall in love with him. Like, fall in love with him, please." And Juliet basically says, like, "I'll try, but I'm not going to force myself to love someone that I just can't naturally love." And that is quite, I would say, telling for Juliet as a character, that one of her first lines is basically saying, you know, I'll try, but I'm going to hold to my convictions. She is someone who is not going to rock the boat in a way that she would view as unnecessarily, but she's not going to just go along with the flow either. It doesn't always look like that, because based on how her parents behave, especially given their reaction to her refusal to marry Paris, it seems that she probably isn't someone who normally would have defied her parents. She seems to be a very, very well-behaved girl who usually does what she's told. And so when she chooses not to, when she stands her ground, it's quite shocking to her family. Her dynamic with Romeo, while I admit is way too fast to really be recommendable to real life, I find it to be very, very interesting. And I do quite like that Juliet is so staunchly loyal to Romeo. Like, even her nurse, the one person who has always been supportive of her, directly says, "Why don't you just pretend it didn't happen and marry Paris? No one would be the wiser, and Romeo can't challenge you on it without coming back to Verona, where he's going to be killed." But Juliet refuses and says, "No, Romeo is my husband and I love him. I'm not going to just marry someone else, even though I would never be called out for it." I also think that Juliet is naturally a very peaceful person, because while yes, she does admit that she hates the Montagues at the beginning, the "my only love sprung from my only hate" line, it seems to come more from a family loyalty than from an actual hatred of the Montagues. And we also see that when she chooses to marry Romeo, she isn't choosing to abandon her family. She is genuinely distressed when Tybalt dies. And later on we hear from the nurse that she's grieving both for Tybalt's death and for Romeo's exile equally. It has not given up one side or the other. She wants peace between the two sides. There's just not a whole lot she can do in this scenario. That's not to say she's perfect. Like, honestly, yeah, she has some majorly impulsive actions in this play. Like, majorly so. And the fact that she switches over so quickly from caution to, "Yes, I'll marry you," in the balcony scene with Romeo, because she switches from very clearly saying, like, "Whoa, this is going pretty fast," to literally later in the scene going, I'll send someone to talk to you tomorrow." Yeah. We also see this dichotomy between her passion and her caution coming up again in the scene right after they get married, when she's saying, like, "No, please stay," but then when Romeo agrees to stay, she abruptly realizes, "Oh crap, if he's caught here, he's gonna die," and then starts, like, shoving him out the door, like, "Go, go, 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 get out of here, go, now." She also has enough cunning to know that she can't just cave one way or the other when the nurse and her parents are all pushing her to marry Paris. She knows that she can't just keep refusing, because that would get her nowhere except for probably thrown out, or literally forced to marry Paris. But she also knows that she can't really do anything on her own, so she goes to Friar Lawrence for help. Which might seem like a pretty basic move, but given the fact that I'm pretty sure that's the first time we've seen her outside of her family's home in the play, it seems like a bigger deal than it might otherwise be. I'm not sure how to say that. It just seems like a big deal to me that she strikes out on her own in a a very small way to get out of the house because she realizes that there's no other way for her, or at least no other way that works. She has enough of a head on her shoulders to know that she needs to seek help elsewhere. Also, one thing that I find very interesting about the way Juliet is portrayed in terms of how Shakespeare wrote her, she, in many ways, has the harder job of her and Romeo. And full disclosure, I have to admit that I'm taking some of this idea from Cassius of the Shakespeare Minute. I'll link the Shakespeare Minute down below. That's her channel. I don't think she's posted anything in years, but I really like her stuff. So yeah, if you want another good Shakespeare channel, that's a good one. In one of her videos, I can't remember if it was on the Shakespeare Minute or her other channel, Exeunt Pursued by a Bear, but in one of them, she said that in many ways, Juliet had the harder role, or the actress who plays Juliet has a slightly harder role than the actor who plays Romeo, because, well, Romeo is on stage primarily with other people. He has his friends, Benvolio, Mercutio, all those guys. Juliet is often alone. She has her nurse, but later on in the play, when the nurse has, just switched her story and is now encouraging Juliet to marry Romeo, admittedly, I don't want to say good reasons, but at her heart, she wants the best for Juliet. It's just that it kind of clashes with what Juliet feels is right and what she wants. At that point, Juliet has a number of scenes on her own, including probably one of the scenes that involves the most deliberation and some of the harder acting, I would say, in the play, and that is Juliet deciding whether she wants to actually drink the potion the friar gave her. Also, this is another scene where she shows that she's not as impulsive as her husband, because she takes a bit more time to think about, like, should I drink this? What are the repercussions if I drink this? What could this possibly be? Am I sure that this is actually what the friar said it is? And it's a fairly intense scene, especially since she's the only actor on stage, except for, I think maybe you could include Tybalt's ghost if you wanted to. Sorry, it's been a while since I read that scene. But that scene, it can be pretty sad. Like, the version that I saw on stage, she was crying her eyes out for the whole scene. Which, yeah, she isn't killing herself, she's taking a potion to put herself to sleep, but she's killing that part of her life when she chooses to take this. This isn't just her going, I'm going to take this and get out of an arranged marriage so that I can go be with my husband, although that is certainly her motivation. It's also her choosing to essentially cut herself off from her family, probably forever. Maybe someday she could come back to Verona as Romeo's wife, but if she were to do that, she would not have the relationship with her parents that she once had, if she was able to have one at all, completely depending on how her parents reacted and how she dealt with it. She's choosing whether or not she's going to say goodbye to her family. This is a moment where she is actually having to choose between Romeo and her family, which is something she's been trying not to do for the entire play. The entire play, she's been kind of walking the line the same way Romeo has. They've been trying not to pick one over the other. They've ultimately been picking each other, but they haven't wanted to cut off their families. Because who would, in their circumstances? It's clear their families do care about them, and it's clear that the two of them love their families. So this is a very, very difficult moment for her. And then on top of that, she isn't totally sure that the potion is actually a sleeping potion. For her, for all she knows, it could actually be poison. It could be something that the friar gave her to basically shut her up, because he was the one who performed the marriage. And so if she's dead, well, there's no one to tell anyone that he did that without the parents' permission or acknowledgement, or whatever you want to call it. And then her death scene at the end, which is so incredibly sad. For me, one of the more heart-wrenching versions of that scene is actually in the 2013 movie version of Romeo and Juliet, because it's so much quieter than a lot of the other versions. Anyway, that was my Juliet video. If you guys have any comments or questions regarding this, please comment below. I would be happy to talk to you about it. How are you guys doing with the rest of Shake 2, whether that be reading, watching, making content yourself? And do you have a favorite version of Romeo and Juliet? Because there are a lot of versions out there. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day. See you later. I had it right the first time. Okay. So this is going to be the third video in my Shake 2 2020 series for my hey guys. Apparently I can't pronounce the G sound.